Meteorologist Bill Murray in Port Lavaca, Texas on this Sunday, July the 7th. It's just afternoon. I've got an update for you on Tropical Storm Beryl. You can see from the imagery on the screen that the tropical storm, the center, and its curved outer bands are clearly within the radar fence of the National Weather Service network radars now. Here you see the radars along the coast composited into a composite image. It shows the center there, about 125 nautical miles east of Brownsville, Texas. That's about 145 statute miles. Showers are moving into the coastal waters, and there are even some outer bands of the tropical storm, which is still fairly disorganized there from areas just north of Victoria over to Houston and Beaumont. They've had heavy rain for a couple of straight days, and it will be stormy. Some of these outer bands eventually, probably these here, with the fairly unstable air in the coastal plain, like here in Port Lavaca, it's still partially sunny, getting more cloudy with time, but they may have enough instability and shear from the atmosphere in order to produce a tornado or two this afternoon. We'll be watching that closely. Nothing right now of any importance or imminence, but that's what we're going to be dealing with. And here's what we're dealing with in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Gulf. This is Tropical Storm Beryl, still fairly disorganized, as a matter of fact, rather disorganized, but a lot of convection building. You can see, especially there, sort of on the northeast side of the center, this deeper convection. But it's just not building together, holding together, turning into anything yet that would lead to any kind of rapid intensification. This is the National Hurricane Center track of the 10 a.m. advisory. We'll have a new advisory here shortly, but no new forecast package as they come every 6 hours. The system is expected to become a hurricane this afternoon by 7 p.m. tonight. It is expected to be onshore on the Middle Texas coast there by 7 a.m. on Monday. That landfall is probably going to occur about 3 or 4 a.m. near the community of Matagorda on Matagorda Island, Matagorda Bay, and that's going to be kind of just east of where I am across the bay. The top winds, this advisory package, 65 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure, Air Force reconnaissance reported 992 millibars. The global models, we're pretty much there at this point. This is the GFS ensembles. They're all tightly clustered. We've been talking about this for a couple of days. European, not quite as clustered, but the mean right there in the same location. It just points out that in that, in the cone of uncertainty, the center can shift even this close to landfall, 50 miles or so. The Hurricane Center forecast is still for it to become a Category 1 hurricane. The other models are not as bullish on that, and we'll kind of look at that in just a moment. Air Force Mission 29 is en route to the storm now. We'll have reports from them shortly. Air Force Mission 28 has been in the storm for several hours, and these are the reconnaissance vortex central pressures, 992, 993 millibars. So rapid intensification just not part of the picture at this point. This is a little closer look at the last pass, which showed a central pressure somewhere probably down around 992, and they really weren't in the perfect center because the winds were still fairly decent. So maybe that pressure is dropping. We'll kind of see how that looks as the afternoon goes. The maximum flight level winds on the outbound leg were just under 60 knots, around 58 knots. You discount that by 10% for the altitude. You're around 52 knots. So the storm is probably 60, 65 miles per hour. I think that is, justifying what the Hurricane Center had there. These 10-second gusts surface on the SFMR instrument were, in the 45 knot range on the way in, so right around 50, 52 miles per hour, and a little bit lower than that on the outbound. So, the hurricane hunters doing an incredible job. They've been at it now, for several days. This hurricane has been with us for a while, since it was in the main development region, and, moved into the Caribbean. And our men and women of the hurricane hunters doing an incredible job. This is, show you a couple of hurricane models, really four. This is the venerable the H-Wharf, the HWRF, that has been around for a long time. Has good and bad aspects, but you can see it's moving the tropical storm, eventually hurricane, closer to the coast. This is going to be at 1 a.m. Central Time tonight. The central pressure there down to 968 millibars, and dropping even more precipitously to about 960 millibars right before landfall. So this is very plausible that we could have a 960 millibar hurricane, top winds 97 knots there, as you see at 4 a.m. So we could have a rapidly strengthening hurricane, 10 knots there in the last 3 hours. The rapid intensification process would be underway. So that's, kind of our concern, is that we're going to have a rapidly strengthening hurricane, moving into the coastal zone. And, strengthening hurricanes can, just seem to wreak a lot more havoc, pound for pound, than a storm that's steady state or perhaps weakening. Here we go with the HMON, our other sort of legacy hurricane model. It brings the storm down to 980 millibars, 69 knots, right there around 1 a.m. And then, makes landfall somewhere in that zone, somewhere around 980 millibars, and, solidly a hurricane for sure. A Category 1 hurricane, but certainly strengthening as it goes. Now, our two newer models, the HAFS, let's look at it here at 1 a.m. It's predicting 982 millibars, just under hurricane strength at about 62 knots. And, it strengthens a little bit, 977 millibars, and gets just below hurricane strength as it's inland by 4 a.m. tomorrow. So, that model a little bit faster, and its sibling, we'll have to ask Dr. Jacobs about these two models a little bit tomorrow night. We'll have Charles Peake on the show with us over at Weatherbrains. But if you go back to, this is 10 p.m. tonight, this HAFSB showing a pressure of 978 millibars, doesn't change very much right before landfall, and it is not quite a tropical storm as it's beginning, or not quite a hurricane as it's beginning to make landfall. But we do expect the storm to become better organized. It is in low shear now and over very warm water, and has a lot of deep convection trying to build around the center. And if that happens, we could see a brief period of rapid intensification in the hours leading up to landfall. Anything else I want to show you here? Yeah, I guess we need to look at storm surge. Here's the latest storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Of course, they've got storm surge warnings for a large part of the coast there. Baffin Bay over to Sabine Pass. In this area, your tides are going to be at least 2 to 6 feet above normal. The prime targeted area there is from Mesquite Bay all through Matagorda Bay, where 4 to 6 feet is expected over to San Luis Pass. That's sort of the western end of Galveston Island. Through Galveston Bay, the city of Galveston, of course, protected by the seawall. On the Gulf side, 3 to 5 feet of surge, 1 to 3 feet all the way over to and it keeps sliding to the east, there the Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, including Cameron and Sabine Lake, areas that I was at yesterday. Now, south of Baffin Bay, south of Corpus Christi, all the way to the mouth of the Rio Grande, storm surge is expected to reach 1 to 3 feet above dry ground. Rainfall going to be a big problem. Flooding will be an issue. Starting later today, already getting some rainfall, as you saw. there in the Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Houston areas. But rainfall right there along the coast near the area of landfall will be in the 8 to 12 inch range, scattered, isolated 15-inch amounts with, a generally tapering band of anywhere from 4 to 8 inches all the way up through eastern Texas, staying to the east of the I-35 corridor. You're going to have some amounts there, 6 to 8 inches up in northeast Texas, places like Temple, Texarkana. Looks like it's going to get at least 4 to 6 inches. And, I would be a little worried about western Arkansas. This system's going to be being absorbed by a large upper trough, and, some crazy things can happen. But rainfall amounts are going to be, 2 to 6 inches all the way through Arkansas, Missouri, and into southern parts of Illinois. So, well, that's your update here at 12:49 as we finish the recording. And we'll, of course, be keeping an eye on the tropical storm as it becomes a hurricane, and have another update for you after the 4 p.m. package. Going to go out and do a little exploring down to the famous ghost town of Indianola, hit by a hurricane, 1875, 1886. Townspeople said enough of this. They pulled up stakes, and a lot of them moved to Victoria, Texas. But it's a very famous ghost town in hurricane stories and hurricane lore. And going to run over to Matagorda and just explore all the areas down Matagorda Bay. Watch the weather sort of deteriorate this afternoon right here from Matagorda Bay. Well, that's your update. Thanks for watching. Have notes on the blog. And we'll be bringing you frequent updates through the afternoon, into the nighttime hours tonight, into the early morning hours tomorrow, and maybe we might get a little sleep by this time tomorrow. But I'm meteorologist Bill Murray, and as I always tell you, keep an eye to the sky, because you'll always have something fun to look at.